How we doing?
Oh,
How we
good
doing?
evening.
How we doing?
Did you see there's a little notice up here? A little notice with StreamYard.
Yeah, you do the talkie. I'll try and fix this. Tell me what's happening.
Okay. We're getting a lot of things in that there's a little problem with streaming tonight, but we're all right. We're on the go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so good to see so many of you out there already. There's loads and loads, and if you could keep sharing it, it'll be fantastic. Welcome to Scottish Sessions Tartan Tunes Show. And we have got a show and a half for you tonight. We've got some amazing stuff going on. We have got Adam Sutherland, that amazing fiddle player. And we also have Willie McCallum, a piper that's won just about every award that's going for piping, I think. And the thing is, he's also won them about 3 or 4 times as well. So it's great. So, what's been on this week, Davey? Again, you're having a look at that one. Are you getting there with that one?
I'm trying to fix this, but it looks like we're not on Tartan Tunes' own page.
That's not so handy.
No, give me this week not a lot happening. Back to work.
Can we play that set of tunes I've got while you're doing this, or I know what you do?
We'll play that set of tunes. We'll play the first
one.
Here we go.
There's a couple of tunes that I recorded. The first one's called Margaret's Waltz by Pat Sheldon Shaw, and a wee tune I wrote through the week for my wee Doug, and it's called Luna's Tune. So it was going to be a slow air, but then I played it and it seemed to work better as a waltz. Yeah, so that's what happened. Here's a couple of tunes. Let's see how we go.
Here we go.
There we go. A wee couple of tunes. There we go. You managed to connect us again, did you?
I don't know. I've shared Peter with music onto Tartan Tunes, so hopefully folk will see it there.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's easy working now because it's working now.
Yeah,
it's like fucking. We're good. I've saved it again. Davies, the
small gremlin. Well, look at the numbers going flying through the roof. There we go. That's wonderful. Join in, folks. As we were saying earlier, we have got a fantastic guest for you tonight, and that of Mr. Adam Sutherland and Mr. Willie McCallum, and I saw a big Rab on there for the big Rab show.
Share, yeah.
Looking forward to this one. So that's cool. Good. Right. So that was a wee couple of tunes. Fatwas Waltz, and we also had Luna's tune, a wee slow one. How are we doing for time here? I think this next one's not long at all. I wouldn't mind playing this wee slow air that Kenneth Mckenzie was a guest on the show. Was that 2 weeks ago? 2 or 3 weeks ago? Can't mind now. But Kenny came on and brought his new album out and that. And this wee tune, you know how you get a tune that sticks in your head and it wouldn't go away? So this one stuck in his head, and it's called Marie Mckenzie's Welcome to Caberfay. So let's play that one. I just recorded it about an hour ago. So, and all the footage is Clickeman-Broch. Clickeman-Broch is the old Pictish site. They reckon 600-700 BC. Just a wee bit older than me. Just a wee bit.
Couple of days.
Okay. Are you working with comments just now, or am I?
I'll do comments.
Good then. Right. Here's this whistle there. It's a beauty. Bonnie tune. Very, very bonnie tune. Well, there we go, folks. That's good. There's so many people watching now. This is fantastic. Keep sharing, though, folks. Hit the share button and share us all over the world and a few other places as well. That would be fantastic. Kenny, you're most welcome. There we go. Great wee tune. So, how's Fiona and Amy?
Doing grand. Doing grand.
Amy's getting grand in the hospital now, getting bigger and bigger every day. I see her photo.
Exactly. Yeah, just I'm back to work tomorrow, so need to juggle that as well.
Yeah, I've got a wee long weekend, which is rather nice.
Yeah, I've got a long weekend.
Yeah, probably. Well, just draw. Mm-hmm. Anyway, listen, I think it's time to bring on our first guest for this evening. Awfully pleased to have this chap coming on because he's just he's made a big name for himself in the folk world, exceptionally so. And we're going to have a great wee blather and talk about some of the other different stuffs that he does. Here we go. Here's Mr. Adam Sutherland. Hello, Adam.
Good
evening,
how you doing, guys. I'm very well. How are you?
Doing grand. Doing grand.
Getting blown away up here actually in Shetland tonight. To be honest, they're talking about no ferries for 2 nights or something possibly. So that's peace. Goodness. That keeps folk out of the way, you know. That's good. So what are you up to, Adam? What have you been up to lately?
Well, it's not been a massively busy couple of years.
No.
But I have been quite busy just during the pandemic, nonetheless. It's been a challenging time for musicians, eh? In fact, not just musicians, everyone in the industry, from all sides of the many jobs that the industry supports. So I just turned to writing music, which I kind of love doing anyway. I applied for loads of jobs, like with Tesco's and Morrison's. I was like up for being a delivery driver at the start of it, because remember when there was no talk of any vaccine, and it was right at the start, and it was all like unbelievably grim. And I think that was the hardest bit in many respects for lots of folk, because there was all this chat like, vaccines take 10 years to work out. Obviously, scientists totally upped their game in that respect. But so back at the start, I was kind of, I think a lot of folk felt angry. I got really angry about something totally non-angering, some comment online, and I had to take myself away and go, oh my God, I'm so angry. Why am I so angry? And then I realized, I thought, are you grieving? I'm not going to get too deep here, but I got really angry. And then I thought, maybe this is like stage 2 of grief. And then I read some psychology article which said, in many ways, people are grieving. But I was like, no one's died that I know. But then it was like, maybe that's like your life dying. Anyway, I've just cut into a funny bit. There's a funny bit coming. So I started, actually, it's not that funny. It's not funny. But I just started looking for jobs.
Do you want us to laugh or not when this punchline comes or not?
No laughing. What was that? Anyway, Davey, this is very serious. So, guys, anyway, no, I started applying for jobs as like food delivery drivers, and I filled out my first ever CV, and I realized actually one of my favorite bits of being a musician was actually like taking PA downstairs and loading it into cars and turning up and doing weddings. I don't know about you guys, but I really missed, to my surprise, the bits that I always complained about. My heart kept kind of yearning to be lugging a PA system into a venue. Anyway, so I typed out a CV and said, I can deal with the public, I can dress smart, and I can carry stuff. So I applied for some jobs. I didn't get any of those jobs. So I just went back to just writing tunes. I don't know. So I've been writing lots of music. Is a very long-winded answer.
Yeah,
good.
I really, but really difficult at the same time though. When, for likes of myself, I'm in the music business, but I'm employed by the council to teach the accordion in the schools. So for myself, I wasn't put into the position that I was out of a job. I still had a wage coming in. Yeah. But guys that were full-time professional musicians, straight down the line, I mean, and a lot of people that had been playing even longer, 30, 40 years, that's all they'd done all their life. Yeah. They hadn't any intention of even focusing on trying to get something else because they weren't needing something else. That was what they did. And that's been incredibly difficult in the arts and things. It's been really difficult. It's been because a lot of these guys are amazing on-stage musician not a qualification to rub together between them kind of style thing. A lot of these guys, and then and all the qualification was in the many years that they'd played and built up the knowledge, etc., what they were working with. So really difficult times, So, are we going to have a wee tune for Adam?
We are. We're going to have the first set of tonight, and it is a set that kind of, how to describe this? When you go on, when you went on tour quite often with Hamish Napier.
Yes.
Under the guise of Nay Plans, which I think is a brilliant idea. You turn up, you start, and then you see what the hell happens. But that's kind of been a unique selling point for yourselves. You turn up, a two-piece band, and you just see where the night takes you. Whose idea was that in the first place?
Well, originally it came out of a jam session that Hamish and I had together. I was out teaching at a fiddle school in Boston on Thompson Island, and Hamish was out there studying at Berklee College of Music. He was already there, so we met up and had this jam session. And at the end of it, it was unplanned because every jam session you have is, you don't rehearse for having a tune, do you? Unless you have, So at the end of it, I just thought, what is wrong? What the hell is wrong with that? Why is it that that's okay? Because we're in someone's house and there's folks sitting around and they were entertained.
Yeah,
I've got that scene from Gladiator in my head, where he goes, well, are you not entertained? I was thinking, they're entertained. What's wrong with just doing that? Yeah. So we originally, rather than doing it as a gig, we originally thought, let's make a CD. So we sat down in his granny's house, and we just set up microphones and got the studio vibe, and then we just played anything, trying to recreate like a jam session. But we recorded for 2 days, so we had 9 hours of stuff and a few glasses of wine, and then actually a bigger project was actually sifting through it and deciding, is there anything in there that you could actually release? So that was the original thing, an album. We've done 2 albums, maybe 3, and then we took it on the road. And I originally was not up for doing this live, but Hamish was like, no man, let's actually go on stage and have no idea. And I just felt that my anxiety was not going to be able to deal with that. But then we've done it a few times. And the thing is, you do have crashes. We fall off all over the place. We mess up and things don't go well all the time. But I think it's entertaining for people who sense that, God, they really don't have a clue what they're doing. So hopefully it's entertaining.
Well, that's the thing. It's sometimes performances are too polished.
Well, we've definitely not got that problem.
Let's have a listen.
Yep, great playing, fantastic. Lots of amazing comments coming in here, folks, and loads of folk saying how good it is, Adam. And it's fairly keeping Davey going there. I can see him clicking away on all these big comments.
Trying to.
Remember, folks out there, let us know where you are in the world and all that. It's always really interesting to know where you are. We love hearing that, and let us, if you have any questions you want to ask that, stick them in, and we'll say, there's Sandy Stewart's in. That was awesome.
Sandy Stewart.
That's what we want to hear.
So, Peter, how did it all start for you, Adam, with regards to the fiddle playing?
My dad used to run marathons, and we were brought up on the south side of Loch Ness. You're wondering how the heck this ties into fiddles. Do you not see the clear link there? No, my dad used to run marathons, and he had started getting sore knees, like loads of runners do. He went to Dr. Bennett, who had his surgery in the village of Foyers on the south side of Loch Ness.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And Dr. Bennett said, well, Alex, you're going to have to stop running. And I think he sensed some disappointment in my dad. And so he said, wait a minute, stay there. And he went back to his room with all his pills and potions. And he re-emerged with a fiddle case and a phone number of a fiddle teacher. Fiddle teacher on the other side of Loch Ness, a very famous fiddle teacher called Donald Riddle. So he gave my dad a fiddle. He basically prescribed my dad the fiddle for his sore knees. He said, instead of running everywhere, just do this instead.
Right.
So
that is literally prescribing music.
Yeah, it was, and my dad's life changed on that one day, thanks to the doctor. And then I started going for fiddle lessons as well, and I have no idea what I would be doing in my life right now if it wasn't for Dr. Bennett deciding to prescribe the fiddle to my dad.
You know, I heard a story up here in Shetland of many, many years ago, the doctor at Vaux, the place called Vaux, and he played fiddle himself. And he always had a fiddle apparently in the room he's with him. And one day the waiting room was absolutely packed with people waiting to see him. And the first old fellow that went in also had a fiddle. And they started playing, and they played, and they played, and they played. And the old doctor came out with this fellow after however long, and the waiting room was empty. And the people had given up and gone home. And the old doctor's answer to this was, well, there couldn't have been that much wrong with them then.
Deary me.
So
you started off. How old were you? You started learning them. Were you 8 or 9?
I started going to Donald when I was 7, and he was 80.
Okay, bit of an age gap there.
No, we weren't. So you were brought up. I didn't realise you were brought up in that area up near Loch Ness. So. That's
right. My folks are still there. It's called Stratherick. It's far less well known, the south side of the Loch Ness than the north side. Arguably, Loch Ness is like that, almost northeast, southwest, but it's slightly more north. So we call it north and south, even though it's like really. So yeah, mum and dad stay on the lesser known. The other side's got Drum the Drocket and all the Nessie exhibitions and the bigger roads, but so from the kind of quieter side.
So what about community playing and things like that then? Was there much community playing on the go in that area?
Not really. There is a strong history of fiddle music in the area. There's a famous collection of tunes called the Knocky Collection, collected shortly after the Battle of Culloden by Simon Fraser of Knocky. It's got evidence of a whole pile of tunes from the area named after the area. There's a great name for a tune called The Scolding Wives of Abertarf, which is just up the road. So there is a history. But for me, it was just my dad and me, and we went to the Highland Strathspey Real Society, which met in the function suite of Inverness Ice Rink on a Monday night.
All right. So that's great then. So did your dad become quite an accomplished player as well then?
Yes, Dad still plays, and he likes writing tunes, he loves it.
That's brilliant.
So what when did you start writing tunes yourself? Was that an early thing, or was it later on when you started to kind of get in the grasp of it?
My mum found a bit of paper, which I have no recollection of writing, which is in very babyish handwriting, with some notes scrawled in it, which make no sense whatsoever. And it's got a title, and the title of this tune is just called Fish.
All right.
Okay.
I don't even remember doing that, but apparently I thought I'd try and write a tune when I was like a child. I have no idea where I got that from. But first time I remember writing one was like, I think I just found some notes, stumbled across some notes, just a wee phrase that I just thought, that is fun. And I got unbelievably excited. I was like, woo! And so I just kind of like went with that and wrote my first jig when I was about 15 or something.
Fair enough. Because those that are watching probably don't realise that you composed probably one of the most famous kind of modern reels that was brought to the forefront by Fluke. What year did Fluke play it?
They recorded my tune to my absolute disbelief, because that's like being a Rolling Stones fan and having the Rolling Stones like the folk for me. Like, I was such a fan of Fluke. So when they said they went to record my tune, I kind of nearly died. But yeah, they did that in like 2003.
Yeah, so almost 20 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, youngster.
Yeah, but a lot of folk don't realise that, because at the time you would have been how old?
When I wrote it, I was 19.
19. And you were in Glasgow at the time. Were you not in Glasgow at the time?
I was having a jam session with my friend Dave Sutherland, who lived on Downside Road, and we used to get together every night and just play stuff. I had this idea that what key is there? Is there a key that I don't know any tunes in? And I just kind of went through it and I thought, I don't think I know anything in B major. And I was thinking that in the daytime, and at night, me and Dave used to just play and make up stuff. We were playing a reel in A, and I just shouted B at him, and he went to B, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. And then I just thought,
you were very lucky. He just went to B. Many musicians would have. Yeah.
He probably should have
probably said something else back with him.
Yeah, so like I've got my fiddle here. So I just, you know how loads of tunes, right? There's a few opening phrases that loads of tunes start with. Like there's and you know, like and no one owns that. It's almost like a cultural meme or something. So I just used that. Yeah, I thought I'll just go for a beat. I just get started, and that's a bit of advice I give out. Like I teach tune writing is just like pick some notes to start with and see if that goes anywhere.
Yeah.
So then I just thought, what's the opposite of? The opposite of that is. So I just kind of strung those together. And then my favorite note on my fiddle at the time was that note. So blah de blah, and then I just kind of chucked out this tune, and then I wrote the first part, and then I chucked the second part in, and then as I was writing the second part, I had to not forget the first part, which was so hard. And then when I got back to the first part, I had to think, what was that second part I was writing? I had to kind of have two tunes going at once.
Yep.
Anyway, that's that.
Brilliant.
So to kind of skip the kind of original plan, let's hear Fluke play Road to Erigi.
Okay.
Especially for Eva.
There we go.
It's absolute class when you hear one of your tunes getting played by somebody else. And when you hear it getting played like that, it's really all right.
I'll never get used to that. Like, honestly, it's like...
It's,
The one thing that has also changed since then is that you've been able to play your own stuff to a similar sort of crowd. I'm meaning kind of when you were obviously part of the kind of folk super group, the Treacherous Orchestra. Was that came about the same sort of way as No Plans, didn't it? It was kind of a jam session that went wrong. I mean, went well.
Yeah, I think it was the Celtic Connections Festival Club back in the Central Hotel. I'm sure some of your listeners will have been there back in those legendary days. And there was this thing where it was like, first of all, the Festival Club was on every single night. Nowadays, it's like, as you'll know, it's like weekends only. So they had a need for people to play. So on like a Monday night at 3 a.m, this is my favorite time to play. They'd be desperate for anyone to get together. So you get all these Rammy bands, and that's how it started then. Also, my favorite clientele at the festival were the people who were at the festival club at 3 a.m. on what was actually a Tuesday morning. I just think you guys deserve special respect. But yeah, that Treacherous Orchestra was born out of that, and then we started rehearsing and being more deliberate about it after that.
But was there a reason they started just having the club at weekends? What was the reason?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess it was... I mean, there's been quite a few changes over the years with venues and stuff. But I used to love that.
I was so vexed this year. I was supposed to be playing at it, and but our gig got cancelled. It was one of the gigs that got cancelled. So.
Sorry to hear that, Peter.
It was a pest. But, well, we were playing for a dance, you see, so that all the close contact stuff and all that.
Oh, my God, yeah. Yeah, of course.
But no, it might be another time. Be good.
I hope so.
Recently, you've kind of got into telling stories with music. You did the "What a Story a Pair of Boots Can Tell" for the can't remember it. The Mountain Rescue of the Cairn Gorms. What kind of brought that? Was it a personal experience with the Mountain Rescue, or did they kind of approach you to develop it?
I got a gig there at a festival called NAFCO, North Atlantic Fiddle Convention, which moves around different North Atlantic cities. A good few years ago now in Aberdeen, and they shipped a bunch of musicians out to a wonderful venue, St. Margaret's in Braemar, this beautiful former church. Well, it's still a church, but in a former place of worship. And I just played there, and I tell a few stories behind my tunes. And for me, my tunes have kind of become like the story of my life. You know, like I write a tune and then I just name it after some thing that happened. But yeah, the people there, lovely folks there, they felt like a new body of work, as it was called, should be written to commemorate some of the stories surrounding the Braemar Police Mountain Rescue. So I got involved with them, and a whole bunch of local non-professional musicians got involved, and I wrote and arranged music for them to perform at the Braemar Mountain Festival. And so I had to meet lots of local characters because I'm not from there, and I very much felt out of my depth, and you know, I had that imposter syndrome. So I spent a lot of time meeting them and chatting to them and hearing their stories and named tunes after characters, and and I've made a book out of that as well.
Cool.
We're going to have another video, and I feel really bad because I can't remember the guitarist's name.
Mark Clement, wonderful, amazing.
Of course it is, Mark. And this was filmed. Was this filmed at that same gig, or was this another time where you're at the Margaret's?
No, this was the actual gig which precipitated the What a Story a Pair of Boots Could Tell. Yeah,
it's as if I had it planned.
All right.
So here we go. Here's Adam and Mark.
Oh wow, that's amazing!
Right.
Amazing player, fantastic.
Mark Clement is just amazing on the guitar. Just love playing him.
I was going to say it's the kind of tune in a session you wouldn't want to just try and bust.
Yeah, it's a jazzier one. My late grandmother, I wrote it for her, and she always used to say she loves jazz, and she was like, "When are you going to make something jazzy?" So when I stumbled across those notes, I thought, I reckon Granny would have liked this. So
well, I think you hit the right thing there. I saw one of your regular viewers, Dave Cormack, there put on Shades of Stephen Grappelli on there, so I reckon you're on the right track.
Oh hell, no one could touch that boy. But thank you, but he was just.
Just to ask about that, you said they're composing, and you composed that. You've got a couple of books out of your own compositions now, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a R&B collection, volume 1. It's called, and I should probably do another one.
Right. Okay. Great. So Davey's just stuck that address up there. Is that where folk can go to buy your books, etc.?
Yes. There's a silly picture of me wearing a bright yellow jacket on it. Don't be put off with that. I'm trying to convince folk to sign up to my Patreon page to get all my new tunes. And I thought it'd be funny.
Tell us a little bit about that. How does that work? How does the Patreon page work?
Oh well, yeah. I just discovered it during the lockdown. It's part of the subscription economy, I believe it's called. We're all subscribing to like Netflix and all that. It's just a way of supporting an artist, which gives them the ability to kind of keep going. And you get basically if you pay an artist a monthly amount of money, and there's different amounts from very small to a little bit more, then you get stuff that no one else gets, basically, and you get to feel like you're supporting them. So I put all my new tunes up there, the bottom tier, and put little videos up, and I sometimes have hangouts where we just do a wee Zoom and me and the patrons hang out and just chat about anything. I've also got some larger pieces of music that I'm writing, and I'll share the development of those, and it's a really meaningful way. So that's my website. You'll see me wearing the yellow jacket. I can't even remember why I thought it was funny to do that. It's probably not funny. I should probably change that. But yeah, you get my stuff there.
Maybe that's to do with the whole kind of retraining thing during lockdown.
That's right. I was taking that on very seriously, retraining.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you did. But there you go, folks. If you'd like to get a hold of some of the music written by Adam and that, jump onto that website. I'm sure he'd be absolutely delighted to put one in the post to you.
Or 2 or 3 or 4.
Or 3 or 4. And if you want to go to the Patreon page, go for it. That's fantastic.
So the one thing you have been doing is kind of commissions of tunes as well. And one of the tunes we're going to actually no, we'll come back to that. I'm going the wrong order. During the whole kind of lockdown thing, a lot of musicians in the trad world and orchestra world joined Spitfire Audio to record samples, and having that as a kind of the same sort of thing where you can use samples to record your own stuff, etc., etc. And you took it a bit further, didn't you, at Christmas?
Yeah, I guess so. Spitfire Audio is that company that have, for those who don't know, they've recorded sampled orchestras. So that means that they got the violins to play an A, and record that A loads of different times and do that with every single note. So if you've got the technology on your computer, you can kind of program in some notes on the computer and it will access those samples, and the noises will be, in this case, the BBC Symphony Orchestra playing recordings of the notes that you've programmed in. So you can pretty much make a orchestral sound or as close as you can get. It's amazing. It's a whole side of the industry that's just taken off in the last few years. So yeah, during lockdown, I did actually do a lot of retraining, which is how to compose music on a computer, and it's a huge mountain to climb, but I've just been making a wee bit of progress. So yeah, over Christmas, I thought it'd be fun to rearrange Silent Night. And that started because I was teaching a student on Zoom Silent Night, and I muted myself whilst they were playing, and I thought, what would be some different chords?
Mm-hmm.
And I took it to a bit of a dark place eventually with these orchestral libraries, and in doing so, I really fell in love with the tune. I realised I only had this one version of the tune. I used to be a cathedral choir boy in my teenage years, and we sung all these carols. It was like almost therapeutic to just do something different. So I call it wintry. I tried to make a wintry version, and I love winter. So the first bit of it's quite kind of dark sounding, and then I thought, but winter's also quite sometimes harsh sunlight and, you know, real glaring brightness. So I tried to get that in the second half of it. And it's just a wee project for me to do. So it's not really the time of year for Silent Night at all, but hopefully your listeners will forgive that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favourites, actually. I just love that melody as well.
I should say I've also got Sue Ali playing cello. And I've got her to record her parts, and with the wonderful Steve Foreman, a good friend of mine, to record timpani and all sorts of instruments as well. So they're in there, and I'm playing the tune on the fiddle. So it's a mixture.
Here we go. Silent Night.
Let's have a listen. No, great.
I think it's inappropriate for me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. That ending was very apocalyptic.
Yeah, I realised that, like, some folk, my mum wasn't too keen on this arrangement of Silent Night at all, you know, and so I kind of realised it's a bit like Marmite, but I just, at the end of the day, I thought, that's how I'm hearing it. And also, what I'd basically love to do is I'd love to write music one day for film and telly, and I actually would love to write music for a scary film. I just would love that. So part of me kind of just wants to almost have a bit of like a CV saying, look, I could do a scary version of something. And so it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I had a lot of fun doing that.
That'd be great. The happiest song in the world would make it scary. Love it.
Speaking of tunes, back to where it was. So, obviously, with the whole kind of lockdown thing and writing tunes, you did start doing commissions and kind of making kind of extra pennies there. But one of the commissions that's done the best is Fatwas Waltz, which I believe, did you win Original Work of the Year at the Trad Awards?
No, I got nominated.
You got nominated. I knew you got nominated. I can't remember if you won it or not.
No, but I was very happy to get a nomination.
Yes. We were very happy to be nominated for Trad the Media, but we don't speak Gaelic, so that's why we didn't win it. Hey, Peter.
I'm not even going to start on that again.
Oh, you're not starting that. So,
it's good.
Do you want to tell us a bit about how it all came about, that track, and then we can kind of take from there?
All right. Fatwas Waltz was written for Fatima Nielsen. She was a student of mine. And just before the pandemic, I was teaching at a wonderful event called Face Glenalbyn, which is a teaching weekend in Fort Augustus, south end of Loch Ness, which happens every February, or it did until recently. And I was teaching there, and a student of mine was in the class, and I just noticed she was looking a wee bit out of sorts. And I just, she's battling cancer again for the second time, it turns out. And she was a former nurse. She was actually an infectious diseases nurse for the West Highlands, Fatima Nielsen. And so some pals suggested, Adam, why don't you write her a tune to cheer her up? And at the time, everyone was doing charity, raising money for the NHS. So I thought, maybe she'd be up for making a wee fundraiser for the NHS. So I asked her, but I said, just out of interest, NHS, or is there another charity you'd like to raise money for? And she said, actually, the Beatson Cancer Charity in Glasgow, who are famous for doing lots of amazing good around the world for helping cancer patients. So we got in touch with them, and a pal, Deirdre Craddock, another fiddle playing student of mine, three of us and my friend Patrick Grady got together with Beatson guys and made a fundraising piece of music, and got the incredible work from musicians from all over the Scottish folk scene, some from the USA, and trumpet player from Wham, even Paul Spong was involved. And everyone gave their time freely, as well as the engineers. Mark Clement, who you heard earlier, he engineered it for free. Everyone worked, and we raised £7,500 for the Beatson Cancer Charity. We set a target of £5,000. We launched it on the 17th of December 2020, and by the 19th of December, we'd hit 5,000, which I was amazed by.
Yeah.
And so, in the video, you'll see a whole pile of well-known faces from the Scottish folk scene who just gave everything. And I also got huge amounts of help from Ian Copeland, drummer and kind of guru of mine with learning all this new technology. It was a huge honor. Fatma's since passed away, very sadly, but she was very happy with the way it all went with this. And Fatwas Waltz lives on. And it was just like the most rewarding thing I think I've ever done, actually. Yeah. And it wasn't for money. It was no one got any money for it. It didn't feel right. So, but that's it. That's Fatwas Waltz. That's the story.
Good.
Let's have a listen.
Good. Yeah. Very, very nice. That's some powerful piece of music, that. Plenty of power there. Yeah, and a lot of good guys working on that production there. Very
Amazing
good.
team. Paul Jennings did the video as well, I should say. And yeah, Fatima was a great lady who I became very close to. And yeah.
Paul used to live up here in Shetland.
Paul Jennings, yeah, a very, very good friend of mine. Yeah. You've got lots of amazing humans come from up there with you guys.
Trolls, lots of trolls. Anyway, listen, Adam, I can't believe we got through an hour, more than an hour here already. You could have been on all night. It's been great having you as a guest. What, have you got anything planned for the near future?
Goodness me, I'm going to keep writing some more pieces of music.
Good.
I think Hamish Napier and I might end up making a planned album, which feels almost rude.
Really?
And got some Session A9 dates. We've got we're teaching in April. There's some spaces available if anyone wants to come around the fiddle from us slot. Fiddle or guitar or piano. Yeah, a few things. And yeah, lots of plans.
Fantastic.
Well, if you jump onto Adam's website, folks, you'll see all that stuff that is there and available, and I'm sure he'll have links to here, there, and everywhere. So that'll be great. Adam, all I can say is thank you so much for giving up your time on a Sunday night and coming to join us and give us a blather.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks you, man.
Adam.
We'll hopefully catch you in the flesh before long.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thanks,
See you
man.
again, my friend.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Cheers.
There we go.
What a musician! See the tone he gets out his fiddle when he's playing some of the stuff. Wow,
it's a talent and a half.
Intonation, like wow. Right, Jerry.
Let's.
Yep, straight in.
Without further ado, we have one of the finest solo pipers to hit the boards. We have piper Willie McCallum.
Oh. Hey, Willie.
Willie, welcome.
Good evening. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Have you got the room tidied up then?
Nearly. It's been every time I tidy it up within 2 days, it's an absolute disaster again.
We've all been there.
And this is my wee office bit here, you see, and what happens is if anybody doesn't want something in their room, they put it in here.
Yeah.
You know, so it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I've got everything in here. There's Lego tractors. There's
Christmas tree.
It's just amazing. So how are you, Willie? Are you doing all right?
I'm good, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been it's a quiet time of year in some ways, you know, but there's probably a lot just about to happen, you know.
Looking like it, isn't it? It's looking like this year things maybe going to open up a wee bit again. Because it's been a strange couple of years.
It's been kind of a long haul for people. I think you know, just listening to Adam there, I'm always in awe of the guys that do a lot of touring, a lot of gigs, because you know they rely so much for their livelihood on that side of things, and suddenly it gets taken away. And you know, it's very hard to replace that, and that's okay for a few months. But it's part of the livelihood. But the other thing is, you just miss playing. You know, playing in front of audiences. That's what we do. You know, like part of the whole thing about being a musician is communicating to real people and not just doing stuff on the internet. You know, although that's a great substitute at times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, exactly. It's a good job it's been here. This past couple of years. Pretty good.
So, Willie, we'll take you back to Campbelltown, where it all began. Do you want to tell us a bit about how you started piping?
Yeah, I suppose it was kind of inevitable in a way that I would become a piper because, you know, there's a long kind of history of pipers in the family. So I didn't really need persuaded. That being said, you know, I was always very keen to get into it. My father was probably the maddest, keenest enthusiast in piping that I've ever met. And and he'd given up the pipes when he was, younger. But the rest of, a few of the other people in the family kept it going. So when I was a young boy, he was the secretary of the pipe band, and my uncle, who was my main teacher, was the pipe major of the band. It was a band in Campbelltown called the Cownloch Pipe Band, and so that was a great education for me, because even although I wasn't that on the chanter, I used to go everywhere with the band, and I could sing all the tunes, and I knew quite a big repertoire of pipe tunes before I even get my hands on a chanter. So that was good, because I think you kind of appreciate the music just by hearing it, rather than just always looking at it in a page. So and my dad used to teach me to sing pipe tunes as well, which is, when I think back on it, it's quite embarrassing, because when anybody would come to the town to do a recital or something like that, they would end up back at the house, and I would get wheeled in to sing John McFadden and a Melfort or something like that in the kitchen, So, but yeah, it was a great upbringing, and
so that is Canterach then, yeah.
Absolutely, just made up my own, I suppose,
But what? This is does Canterach actually? Is there set rules for Canterach, if you were singing it or not? I'm not sure. Is there?
There's a system which came out of a manuscript, which was a Canterach manuscript called the Netherland Canterach, and that system that was used in that is kind of the formal system, and so a lot of the Pibroch movements that we have in our tunes are named, using the vocables from that. But most people just have their own, and I think it's far better. It's a more personal thing,
Yeah.
Well.
The history of kind of piping in Campbelltown and Argyll in general is quite vast. Of course, your uncle and your second cousin were both army pipers, and part of the Argyll and Southern Highlanders. And was it the 8th Battalion? Was your cousin was 8th Battalion? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The 8th Argylls, yeah.
Yeah. The infamous 8th Argylls, and they're both very prolific composers as well.
Yeah, they were good composers, but not maybe much in terms of volume.
Yes,
but yeah, certainly composers of note, and champion pipers, of course,
Kenny minds me singing on the round.
I've got a tray up here, which is Pipe Major Ronnie McCallum. It was a famous photo that was taken at Kilchurn Castle on Loch Raw, and it was always in my dad's house in the kitchen, so it ended up here, so it's a good wee reminder of Ronnie. He was a great man, and a great player, and a great teacher,
You've given us pretty much a full recital to use today. Was that recorded this month for something else?
Yeah, it was recorded. I did a little recital for an online school I did, and I did it in Otago Street, where I was working, and I just set up the camera, the phone really, and just played a few tunes, which was nice to play in front of the phone, because it puts the pressure on you, to do something decent, So whether it's decent, I know or not, I don't know. But
it's fantastic.
It was, it was quite nice. It's a nice place to play, and the sound quality turned out not too bad.
Yeah. So we're starting off with a set of 3/4 marches.
Yeah.
So is it 78 Longrow, Faro the Stree, and Lochmarie?
That's right. Yeah, the first tune was a tune I wrote myself. And actually, that was the address I lived at in Campbelltown. And when I was, basically I got almost all of my piping tuition at 78 Long Row, because that was where I lived. But my uncle would come down once a week, and would put through my paces, and there was no compromising with anything, No. So you had to be on it, or it was no use. So, which was a great grounding, and probably the best thing for me, And yeah, Ronnie was a great teacher. He was a really good player as well. So yeah, it's pretty good grounding, and it's like it was a famous address because most of the pipers that used to come down to do recitals would end up at the house. So people like Donald MacLeod would come back for a cup of tea or a drama or whatever. Don McPherson and you know, the Ian McFadgen and John McFadgen and all these great players, you know.
I bet there was some crack in the go. There was some crack in the go some nights, I bet.
Oh, I know. I was too young. I missed out in it most of it, you know.
Well, here we go. Set of 3/4s.
Hello there. I'm going to start my recital today with a set of 3/4 marches. First tune is called 78 Long Row. The second tune is Far Over Struy, and the third one is a J.S. McLennan composition called Loch Maree.
Fantastic.
Guys, can I just take you back to one comment from Dana Ricker, who said she's in Ontario, Canada, first time here. Is there a translator? No, you're on your own. You're
You're lucky.
Just nod every so often.
You're lucky you're not here when Paul Anderson was on, because we couldn't understand him at all.
We couldn't understand
him. What were you going to say, Pierre?
Sorry, you there?
Yes. Yeah, so you started off with the pipe band, and then you kind of moved into the kind of the solo playing. What age did you start competing at solo level?
Well, I think my first bagpipe competition, I was 12, and that was in the local competition in Campbelltown. So I'd played in a chanter competition the year before, a couple of chanter competitions, and did okay in them. And then it was straight into piping competitions. So that was a while ago, 1973 it would have been, you know. So yeah.
So what about that then? What about that? Did you get nervous competing at all?
I think when you're younger, I don't think nerves are a thing really, and I probably got a little nervous, but I was always able to kind of channel it in the right way and just play a wee bit better than I thought I could play, you know, just that wee bit of adrenaline. So I kind of really enjoyed it, you know, and so that kind of continued in the junior pipe, and I always got a wee bit of an edge, you know, playing in competitions and stuff. So it didn't seem to really bother me. The same, maybe some of the other competitors sometimes are a wee bit over nervous, you know, but I never really found that. You know, I was lucky. Really.
I mean, were you competing fairly regularly at contests, even as a junior then? So, I mean, that must have been a lot of travelling for you if you were still in Campbellton at the time.
Yeah, but there wasn't so many junior competitions on, and it tended to be mostly Argyll competitions that I went to because, my dad usually worked on a Saturday, so couldn't always get away for competitions. So it was mostly Argyll ones, and the odd trip. There was a great competition run by Bert Barron, and St Andrews, and that was a great event. So we always went to that one, but that was. I never got up to the Glasgow competitions, so I didn't really go in there. But it was enough, you know. Sometimes I see there's so many competitions now. I see some of the younger kids, they're playing at everything, and you know, there's always a worry for me that they get a sort of burnout or they get fed up doing it. You know, although they probably love it, it's always a balance. I think it's really important. You know,
but it's very easy to sicken yourself, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
So from that, you went to how long have you played with first? So how long? There you go. Katie's asking a good question. How long had you been playing before you first entered the piping competition?
Probably a couple of years. Yeah. I was probably just about 9 when I started. So my first chanter competition, it was probably a couple of years after that.
Yeah, and then onto the piping.
And then,
So you go through school and you decide that you want to be a big boy and a big boy career, and you decide to become an accountant.
Yeah.
Quite right. My sister's an accountant, Davey, and she's got the post and I haven't. So there we go.
But as I've always said, you never hear, "Oh, there's the Piper's Porsche."
No.
Yeah. So that took you. Was Stirling University you studied there, wasn't it, Willie?
Yeah, I did. I was there. 3 years I was at Stirling. Yeah, so enjoyed it, and it was actually just along the road from my uncle who lived in Bridge of Allen at the time. Mm-hmm. So it was like a fairly short walk along to Bridge of Allen, and then so I could keep up with Hugh and get. You know, just keep in touch and then get some lessons and get some run-throughs of my stuff and keep me right, you know. So it was that was good, you know. That was a great thing to have, you know.
Is that why you chose Stirling?
Not really, no. I think I went to an open day and it just looked like a really nice place. We'd been up in that neck of the woods anyway, but it was a fairly new university at that time, so it just seemed a good fit,
Yeah. Did you get much competing when you were there? Being central belt?
It wasn't, not really, no, because I didn't have a car, so I ended up, and I wasn't playing the pipe band, so I was really just kind of on my own doing stuff and probably not playing as much as I should have been at that time. I would say there was a time in my life where I wasn't playing all year. I was maybe just gearing myself for playing at a couple of indoor things and then playing at the Argyllshire Gathering and the Northern Meeting. So it probably wasn't anywhere near enough to be on a level that I could have been at, So that's just one of those things,
So the pipe band thing, then, would you say it was more solo you were doing right through your early playing career?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much, Peter. Yeah, I don't think I played in a Grade 1 pipe band. I think that when I joined the Babcock Renfrew band in the 80s, I was probably about 22 or something like that. And that was my first real foray into pipe bands, So most kids have played for about 10 years in pipe bands by that time, And here was me. What do you do to start here? Do I need to get my pipes up or whatever?
I have to do the same as
that. So steep learning curve, definitely.
That's right.
We're going to go play another video. We're going to have your MSR, which is Captain Carswell, Lady Loudon, and Little Cascade. As Peter said before, you don't really hear a lot of folk playing Captain Carswell, be it pipe bands or.
Look at this comment. Katie's putting the pressure on here.
Yep.
Oh, there's a good question. Well, I do try and play every day, and my most of my practice is on pipes. So my usual length of practice on pipes, it's non-stop. But so when I blow my pipes up, I start and I tune and I go for it. Play for about 45 or 50 minutes. That when I'm at my kind of competition or recital mode, So that's it. And then maybe 10 minutes in the chanter, depending what technique needs to be practiced or new tunes have to be learned. So I don't play a lot more than that, really, unless I need to,
Wow.
No. So let's hear your MSR.
Thank you.
And, you can
great
point
tune.
out if there's.
This is a great thing.
We can point out if he needs more practice or not.
I'm now going to play a march for Spain Reel, Captain Castle by Willie Laurie, traditional Lady Loudon, and G.S. McLennan's tune, The Little Cascade.
Yeah, you can't do that wee in bit in a pipe band either, can you?
No, I had to get rid of that quickly, you know.
Whose drones was that? That's mine. So you've pretty much won most things in the solo scene. Is there anything that you've missed out on, or you've wished you'd competed in, or anything like that so far?
I suppose the main one that I'd still like to win would be the Clasp at Inverness. I've been close to it on a lot of occasions, but just not managed to get that one. So that's one I'd like to get before I chuck it, you know. But I've been kind of close and unlucky, I think, a few times in it. But I've probably had about nearly 20 prizes in it, just never managed to get the first, you know. Yeah. 4 seconds. So it would be nice to get it, but you know what? If I don't get it, I've been very lucky in my career, and so I don't have any regrets if I don't. You know, it's just been nice to tick it off. But that's the one that you know you could say I would like to get. You know,
have you ever had any absolute disasters?
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, I mean over the years you get there's always something can go wrong in any performance. You know, things like reeds coming loose maybe, or you know, moisture issues with drones, and where you're, you know, it always happens when you're playing well. You know, when you're not playing very well, these things never happen. You know, so it's always it's at the critical time. So yeah, you know, we've all made big mistakes and stuff like that, and it's you know, it's very humbling as an instrument. I think the pipes, you know, you can never get ahead of yourself, because there's always a potential disaster around the corner, which maybe it keeps you honest, you know.
I remember playing at I think we were doing it at Stranraer or something. It was one of the contests with the pipe band. It was with Scottish Gas, and I mind playing, and the boy too along for me. I kind of looked along at him, just when you're saying, and it was sounding no bad, but I looked along and I thought, he's not doing very much. What's happened to him? And of course, his chanter had slipped at the stock, so he's standing there trying his best to mime and keep his drones on his shoulder, and it just went in a buckle. He got up in the end. It was just, but it was kind of funny. Yeah, the whole chanter just shot out as he struck in. Oh dear,
it's amazing. I think the first time, talking about, you know, the first outing with the pipe band, the first big competition I played at was a championship with Babcock Renfrew, and I always remember it was Bathgate in May. And, you know, you think by that time the weather would be pretty decent, you know. So, and it was until that day. And it was just as we went on to play, we got hailstones. And it was absolutely freezing. And I hadn't worked out how to keep my hands warm, really. So there was a few kind of wee blips, let's say. And then by the time I got to the end of the march, I just dummied the whole of the rest of it, because I knew it was going to be a complete disaster, you know. So welcome to grade 1, you know.
Yeah. I remember some of the stories when we had Fred Morrison on, and you went about the world with Fred a few times in bits and pieces. But he was great telling about the story about the solos when he slept in and all sorts of things, and just got there in the nick of time. And what a guy! Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wasn't a great riser in the morning when I was competing and all that. So it was always a last minute. I'm not a morning person by any means. So I just I rely on other people to get me up out of my bed, you know, some days. So.
Well, that's it. That is it.
Oh, fantastic.
Do you ever think that you'll go to pipe bands after you kind of retire from the solo scene? Do you just keep your hand in?
Yeah, it's something I would like to do, because I think sometimes it's nice to have something to play for, and whether it would be grade 1 or another grade, I don't really know. But yeah, I think most pipers would say that they like to have something to play for, and if there's nothing to play for, you don't have the same drive to keep your instrument good, and you're playing at a level. So I would need to find something, because I wouldn't want to just not play at all. So that would be an option. I've played a few times in other grades just because of bands I was teaching. So, I played a couple of times in grade 4B with a band from Germany that I'm involved in teaching. It's been a really good experience, So
what is the German for ringer?
See that comment there, Donald Corbett's put in about. I think we've all been there, Donald. We've all had it rain blowing in our face, and the lips couldn't have had the mouthpiece. It used to be like that in the olden days. That big plastic mouthpiece, you couldn't. And then you'd start. It's terrible. But I mind playing once over in France with Craic pipe band at a festival thing or something, and the little kids had worked out to follow the pipe band about with handfuls of confetti, and actually waited till they saw you going to take a breath to blow, and then they'd throw this confetti at you. So you got a mouthful confetti, and they thought it was hilarious. That was great.
Of course they did.
Good fun.
So, bringing you kind of back up to present day, after you worked for the university and the council that as an accountant, you're now working at the piping centre, technically, as well as what's the title? Lead bagpipe tutor for the conservatoire.
Yeah, it's on the B Mus Ed degree, which is of course run by the RCS, and the piping centre deliver the piping content for that. So I've been doing that for this will be my 6th year, I think, and doing that. So that's been really, really good. It's been a challenge the last couple of years, of course, and the one thing I have kind of thought at all times in this whole pandemic that it's the younger people who I think have suffered the most. I think that the school children and maybe the university students, they've had it really hard, and so we've tried as much as possible not to be everything on Zoom. So once we were allowed out, if you like, we tried to get back to in-person lessons with maybe a huge distance between the instructor and the student, but we were really keen to get back to that, and that was great. There's nothing like being in the same room as somebody when you're teaching them, and you've just got a whole different vibe, than you have when you're on Skype. I do a lot of teaching on Zoom or Skype, and it's great, but I think in the degree course it's so important that they get you're hearing them on pipes in the same room,
One-to-ones kind of beat it, really. But so is that in the piping centre? That's where you are.
Yeah. The piping centre's got 2 locations, of course. One was former College of Piping at Otago Street. So at the moment I'm teaching in there because we had to kind of spread ourselves out a wee bit, so that we used the largest spaces we could, for obvious reasons. So at the moment I'm teaching along there, and it's great. I really, really enjoy it. It's a nice teaching space. Some great places.
I don't know. We were supposed to be playing in one of them at Celtic Connections. I didn't know there was 2 venues, but
you were at McFatter Street.
Oh, were we? All right. Yeah. But it got cancelled because of COVID, so that was the end of that. So
that was a shame because we thought things were almost back to normal. But I think I see a big change. That I was out yesterday in the West End of Glasgow, and things just seem more like normal. And I think
so.
Hopefully, we're living. A lot of people have been very unfortunate and get really ill, and unfortunately didn't make it. But I think now. We can't go on now, really. It's we need to kind of get a sense of normality,
Well, that's it. The next video we're going to play in a set of 6/8. Well, it's 2 6/8. We've got.
I thought you were going to say the next set is a sense of normality.
No. That'll be August on the green, if that's a chance. We've got Quite Major R. McCallum and The Wind of Change.
Yeah, two Campbelltown tunes. The first 6/8 was written for my Uncle Ronnie, who's my main teacher, Campbelltown, and it was written by Archie Duncan. And the second tune written by Ian McCarroll from Campbelltown, who's been a huge positive in Campbelltown, teaching in the schools, Kintyre Schools Pipe Band. And The Wind of Change was written for the company that owned up that were building wind turbines down in Kintyre. So
Ian McCarroll, most folk wouldn't know, he also used to be my barber.
Oh, is that right? There you go.
Now, my dad's in the Royal Air Force, and we were based at Macrahanish.
Oh, I didn't know that. There you go.
87 to 91. 87 to 91, yeah. I apparently screamed. They had to close the shop when I was at my haircut because I used to scream it down, which is not surprising. Not surprising at all. So here we go, a couple of 6/8s.
I'm going to continue the recital with a couple of 6/8 matches. The first one is called Pipe Major Ronnie McCallum, and the second one is called The Wind of Change.
fantastic. Great. Willie, can I ask, when you pick your material you're wanting to play, what are you looking for?
That's a hard question. I think probably just tunes I like. You know, I mean, it's just sometimes it's something with a connection. So, like if I put a set together, sometimes I like a wee theme in it. But it's mostly just tunes that I've learned over the years. Just like the melody, really. You know. Yeah. You know, I've tried to kind of put as much into a program from the local side of things, you know, so Argyll tunes or Kintyre tunes more specifically, and I always try and include that because it's a big legacy from that part of the world, and you know, very proud to come from that, from Kintyre, you know, like it's great if people just push the music out there, so the great composers come from, you know, like if you think about people like George McIntyre and John Mckenzie, great composers of bagpipe music, huge contribution to the pipe music.
Yeah, I mean, even down that way, the Kintyre way and Campbellton, and so many good musicians, not just but fiddlers and box players, and I mean Archie Mcallister and Alec Mcallister, and all great players. These guys, fantastic. Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Alec and I were at school together, so
right.
We were in the same class at school. Ian McCarroll as well, of course. So yeah, that was some great fun. And Alec used to play the pipes at that time as well.
Oh, I didn't know. There you go. I never realised Alec played the pipes.
There you go.
I see that. But he's got a lovely pipe style when he plays the box. So you know, when you hear him playing the tunes in the accordion. Really nice swingy, all the points and pushes it in the right places, you know. It's good.
Yeah, definitely.
The one thing you've been doing since kind of being a top soloist is you've worked with a couple of other manufacturers to develop products. The main one being with Bannatyne with the Willie McCallum bag. Was that created out of necessity, or just for kind of was it comfort mainly?
That came about by accident, to be honest, because I've been working, as you know, with McCallum's for quite a while. Worked with them on redesigning the drones, as well as just working on the chanter that I play. But there was one day I was talking to Stuart McCallum, and he said, I was talking about my bag, and I thought it's not very comfortable. And he said, but I said I was playing a Bannatyne and I liked it, but I couldn't get the right size. And he just said, you should phone Craig Bannatyne, and I'm sure he'll help you. So that became a conversation about a bag and, you know, what I was looking for. And then, of course, Craig's great at working with stuff. And I didn't know him at all then. And so 2 or 3 days later, a bag arrived in the post. Put it on, and you know, it was really comfortable. It was like he guessed it all, just totally correct what I was looking for. So it kind of went on. That was great, and I got a couple of bags, and I had them in different sets of pipes. And then one or two other people who I was teaching, you know, asked me if I could get a shot at the pipes because I was telling them about the bag and all that. No, can we get one of them? Yeah, okay, I'll see. You know, so it kind of grew out of that. And then I got together with Craig, and he said he wanted me to work with him and on different moisture control things. You know, so it's been a really, really good partnership. It's great to work with, and he understands, and he thinks about the instrument, even though he's not a piper, but he's worked with enough people to know how they work. So yeah, it's a good partnership for me, and I really like working with Craig. And he's always got ideas, because one of the things he's worked on is as well as pipe bags is industrial air extractions and stuff like that. So he understands airflow and
because they're both so similar, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's been you know, that it's putting that side into it as well. So yeah, it's really good. So we get on well, and it kind of dovetails pretty much the way we'd want to. So it's good. I just like working. I'm kind of good at figuring out why things don't work. I've always been quite good at that. So I suppose it helps.
How to fix
You
them.
have to be like that as a piper, I suppose, you know. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. Not necessarily how to fix them.
Absolutely.
It did work.
Yeah, absolutely. Trial and error is a great thing, you know.
Well, exactly. I've noticed over the years, some of the top pipers work with have in their profession worked with numbers. Ian Duncan, mathematician. Bob Shepherd, mathematician. Yourself, an accountant. It's just unbelievable how many pipers are been dealing with numbers.
This is where it's gone wrong for me. I was horrible at maths.
Oh, there you
And
go.
that's why you play accordion.
So I ended up better than Johnny.
Roddy McLeod's another guy. He's
Of course, yeah.
Maths degree and a maths teacher, you know.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. We're coming on to your last number, which is a slow air and then a hornpipe and jig, kind of showing your famous finger work a bit more. The slow air, that's one of your own tunes, isn't it?
Yeah, I wrote that, and it kind of started off as me messing about when I was tuning up one day, and I thought I would try and get a wee tune that was kind of had an ebb and flow to it, and it ended up as a 2-part slow air, and then I thought that it's not quite finished yet. I need something else to finish it off. So that's the third part. Didn't come. I didn't set out to write 3 parts. I didn't really set out to write anything, but then it ended up a wee tune that I quite like playing. So I named it after my hometown, Cownloch, because the original name for Campbelltown was Cownloch Kilkerran, and until the clan Campbell decided they wanted a town named after the clan, and when you're as powerful as they were, you would get your own way. So, but yeah, so that's the history of that. So yeah, Cownloch is Campbelltown, you know.
And then we go into finger control and then judge's dilemma.
Yeah, Finger Control was a tune I picked up in John Wilson's books. He's a great composer, I think, and it looked the name of the tune was the thing that kind of drew me in. What's this all about, you know? And it's quite difficult in places. And then I've played the Judge's Dilemma forever. I think when my dad got the Donald MacLeod Book 3, I was all over it, and that was one of the first tunes I learned out of it, you know. So yeah, I played that forever, you know, so no excuse if it's a mess, you know.
Here we go. Slow your hornpipe and jig.
We're going to finish off the recital with a slow air, hornpipe and jig. Slow air is Cownloch. The hornpipe is Finger Control by John Wilson. And the last tune will be The Judge's Dilemma by Pipe Major Donald MacLeod.
man, that's great, Blair. Fantastic.
Thank you.
So the tune you wrote yourself there, then, have you got that stuff out in books or anything, Willie?
One or two of my tunes are in books, aye. That tune's in Bob Worrell's third book, I think, that one.
The Slayer.
It's not a thing. I've written a few tunes, but it's not a thing I've really sort of put a lot of time into. It's something that I'd like to get, spend time doing. I've got a lot of little ideas and wee snippets of tunes recorded on the phone and stuff like that. So it's just really, I think it's really just for me, just getting time to put these bits and pieces together. It's time. You need time to do these. You don't want to do them half-hearted and they'd end up in the bin before they went anywhere. So
I would quite like to. I'd like to have a wee go at that Slayer and the accordion. So I'll get a hold of Bob.
I'll send you that through. It's not a problem. I'll get a copy of it. Aye, good. Nice. It's nice when people play your tunes. I don't have that many out, but I've heard a couple of them coming back and people playing them, and I thought, that's really nice. That makes me feel.
Have you ever had anyone compete in front of you with one of your tunes, not knowing that you wrote it?
I have, yeah. No, I think they knew I'd written it. I've had a couple of people played a tune I wrote for my father. But it's quite obvious it's me because it's Willie McCallum Senior's March. So I think they've probably got a clue that it was me that wrote it, but it doesn't stop them. It's really nice for them they do that,
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic.
Peter.
David, I thought you were going to say something. If you want me?
No.
That's all right. But no, I'd love to. And I'll tell you, sometimes when you write tunes and different instruments for different instruments, it can be quite entertaining at points. It can be quite an interesting combination. Yeah. There's quite a lot of. It's become a wee bit of a thing actually in the lockdown. There's quite a few fiddle players and accordion players and folks like that bringing out books of pipe tunes that they've written.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, some of them really get it right, and it works well. But sometimes some of them don't understand how a tune just won't work on another instrument very well. But most of the time, folk are trying, and you're getting this new kind of contemporary stuff coming across that's written on a different instrument. Because let's face it, the accordion or whatever. I mean, I was a piper first and foremost, but the accordion when it came along, I was playing a lot of pipe tunes in my repertoire in the accordion, and we always have done. But this is a kind of new angle. This one with people actually specifically writing on the pipe scale and on different instruments, and then putting it to a piper. That's quite interesting because there's a couple I've written in the accordion. I've sent them to Davey and said, "Go and put some typeset in that for me." And he'll say, "Oh yeah, that's good." And then, but wait a minute, that one doesn't work well. That doesn't flow well on the finger. It's all here, what's going on, because
it's great on the accordion. You can't do that. Pipes.
Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it? That I think it's all becoming more and more musical all the time. All these instruments are starting to come together, and the musicians are starting to think far more alike than they ever did before. And like when you were talking about the conservatoire there, the piping school and the trad music course and that, they're all meeting each other all the time now, and it's all becoming very musical, and it's good.
It's great because they have a folk ensemble, and all the piping students have to be part of that, and they put them in with very diverse instruments, and it's great for them, to understand more about their own instrument. I think that's tremendous. I mean, that was a thing that didn't exist when I was growing up. The opportunity to go in that course because you were learning in a different way. And it was very centred on just piping only. But I love to hear that. I mean, the stuff that Adam was doing there and with a whole host of different instrumentalists, it's just fantastic. And it should continue. Long may it continue, really,
Yeah.
Here's what's funny, Willie. Sorry, Pierre. Would you have went on the piping course as a degree if you were younger, if it existed, or would you have stuck with accounting?
I probably would have. I would have probably gone on a degree course. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was a
Yeah.
there was a time when there was actually it was actually a chance that I would have gone into the army, into the Argylls, but not as in the pipe band, but as an officer. And and because they used to send a recruiting van round all the Highland Games, and they got to know, because I was related to Ronnie as well. So I got a letter, saying if I'd be interested in doing that. So I said to my dad, "What do you think of that?" He said, "That wouldn't do for you." He said, "You can't get out of your bed in the morning." And I said, "Well, how early? How early?" And he said, "Oh, you need to be up at 6 in the morning." Oh, well, that's fine. I'm not going. That was the army commission out the window,
Yeah.
Brilliant. The one thing I will announce is for hopefully for this year is you'll probably be asked to perform at the launch of the Argylls Book 2. Probably. We don't know yet. Probably, so do I. Be a little easier. But you played the last one, which was 2017, and I think the performances that were made by the Argyll pipers that were there kind of set the whole thing off, and playing your uncle's tunes and all that sort of stuff, and playing the tunes that are in that book, and your connection with the Argylls as well, for what you just mentioned there, it did kind of set off. I think, and I know this is controversial, I think the Argylls probably wrote more pipe tunes, decent pipe tunes, than any other regiment in Scotland, and that's including like the Highlanders and things like that. But what folk don't realise is the Argylls covered a huge area a huge catchment area, even up to Kinrossshire. Do you ever think that there'd been different if pipers now were pipers first and soldiers second, rather than soldiers first and pipers second? Do you think that there'd be a difference in kind of piping, or do you think it'd still be as good as it is now?
That's a hard one to say, to sort of answer, really. Certainly in terms of composition, I don't think it would have been any different, because there was geniuses. If you take the Argyll and Southern Highlanders, you had composing geniuses like Willie Laurie and John McClellan of Dunoon and Johnny Mckenzie and people like that. Just amazing producers of music. I think they would have done that whether they'd been in the army or not, because they just had that innate talent to put tunes together. But they might not have the time to do that, because maybe being in the army, they had some time on their hands that they would just devote to piping. Maybe if there was no army and they were just civilians, maybe they wouldn't have had time to do that. They would have to be working in a probably a really difficult job. I mean, there was people in the past people like I was speaking to Angus McCall one day, and we went up to Bono, where the quarry was, and he was saying these guys were quarrying and making cobblestones. The quarry, and a lot of them were pipers,
right,
and a lot of the McCalls, and you just think, that's a really, really tough physical job. I mean, would they have had time to write the tunes? That's the thing,
Tell me, do you happen to know the 6/8 pipe march of the Bono Highlanders? Is that what it was about then? Was it about them? Because
it was, because there was quite a lot of pipers worked at the quarry.
Right. It sounds like it's a regiment or an army or something, just the Bono Highlanders. But obviously it's that then. That's what it's been.
It was a quarry kind of. It would be a pipe group, I think. I don't think it was a pipe band. So they called themselves the Bono Highlanders.
Right.
There you go.
Well, I can't believe it. It's nearly 10:15, guys. We've been speaking for ages. Willie, it's been fantastic having you on tonight. Have you got anything planned you're really looking forward to this year? Or?
A lot of it's going to be the same, but it'd be nice to get out to. I teach quite a lot of little weekend workshops and schools, and I've got a couple of these in Germany coming up, and then a few in America in the summer. So it'll be nice with, unless there's any big changes, to get back to doing that, and it's just nice to meet people and spend the time, and I think people you don't appreciate what you have until you don't have it. And I think a lot of people's sort of attitude to what they did will be so different, and it's a great thing. It really kind of grounds you, I think.
Yeah, I think people will hopefully start to appreciate really what we do have. Whatever it is, that'll be good. So, but listen, sir, thank you so much, Willie, for coming on and. Giving us your time tonight. It's been brilliant to speak to you, and I hope to see you at a contest or something like that this year.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Willie. Thanks very much. Take care, Willie.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you.
Bye. Fantastic, guys. Magic. What a player. What a dream to be able to play a set of 6/8s like that. That'd be great.
I know.
There we go. I'll just have to dream.
Dream, the impossible dream.
Listen, I'd have to practice 6 hours a day to even get. There we go. Never mind. Davey, that's been a lovely show again. Thank you very much to Adam Sutherland. Adam was it was great having him on. Great musician. Absolutely brilliant having Willie on. I've been aware of Willie for many, many decades now.
Yeah.
I never really had a chance to get to speak to him, so that's been really, really good. So it's just good old Tartan Tunes blather, a bit of craic as well. Davey, who have we got on next week?
Next week we have. Oops, wrong page. 2 seconds. We have accordionist Supreme.
Oh yeah.
Supreme. You don't know who it is, do you? You've forgotten.
I have. You're on the job here.
Accordionist Supreme, Mr. Gavin Piper.
Oh yeah, brilliant. We've got Gavin on next week. That's magic.
And I have no idea what this person plays because you didn't put it in the notes. And we've got Jill Halliday.
Yeah, Gavin is a piper as well.
I know. Oh, I know Gavin.
Yeah. So, and Jill Halliday, used to sing in a band that I sang in about 30 years ago, but she still does. No, I didn't sing in the band. She did. She was the singer. Okay. But we've got Jill coming on, and she's in a folk duo now, and they do a lot of work together. And I think folk are really going to enjoy them. She's got a great voice, flute player, guitar player,
fantastic,
all that stuff. So, so we've got a nice mix of stuff next week. So it'll be a really nice wee show again.
Grand.
All right. So
you enjoy your couple of days off.
Just one.
Oh well, just one.
Well, tomorrow, and then I'm back to school for 2 days, and then I have to nip down to Aberdeen on Thursday for a wee operation. So
are they? I'm not saying it. Never mind.
No, they're going to take the plan is to get a kidney stone taken out my kidney.
And the kidney find it.
They couldn't find it. No, they blast it. They blast it with sound waves. It's a very musical experience.
As long as it's not accordion, we're fine.
Well,
it's when they say, "Oh, we're going to try this one. It's a CD from a band in Shetland, the Peterwood Dance Band." Don't use that one.
Take that. Anyway, listen, brilliant, David. Thanks very much for tonight. Say hello to the family, and
I will do.
Good night.
See you next week. Bye for now.